Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda, Asmitarupa, Anugamad, Samprajnata. When you practice with detachment, you will lead yourself to a state called Samadhi. Samadhi means integration. And the Samadhis are of four types. Yoga ultimately is a program for mastering our own mind. The very idea of yoga is mastering our mind to still the mind. Until we master our mind, the mind will never be still. Stilling the mind is considered as yoga. The key that we have is practice. Another key that we have is detachment. Detachment is effected by observation. When you are observing, you are not attached. You are the observer. You are not the attached being with what you are observing. Then finally what happens? As your mental program slows down, you get into silence. You come closer and closer to the point of attention, and it leads you to integration. Integration brings forth the experience of silence, as no other program is active in your mind for the time being. And Patanjali says in Sutra 17 that we have studied last time, this time we try to practice it. In Sutra 17 he says, Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda, Asmitarupa, Anugamat, Samprajnata. Samprajnata Samadhi. Samadhi means integration. Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda, Asmitarupa, Anugamat, Samprajnata. Vitarkam is analysis. So whatever is projected from within, or whatever is shown from outside to the mind immediately starts its analytical program. And as you know, the analysis takes place with the support of the memory. So in meditation, we were looking to see what the mind is doing. So mind may produce some thought, and as soon as it is produced, there will be an inherent tendency to know what is coming up now. So a thought has come. It is not what you volunteered or wanted it to come, but it came. It is not what you are bringing forth into the awareness, but it is shown, so it catches your attention. As you start to see, then the process starts, because the mind wants to know what is going on. So it starts to look. Now we ask the mind to be the observer of what is going on. So we altered the function to observation. As we are getting into the observer's mode, we are not affected by the thought. We are seeing the thought. So you are detached. You are practicing detachment. In the previous sutras, when Patanjali was saying, there were two tools. One is practice, the other is detachment. Long-term, continuous, assiduous, unhindered practice is considered as practice. So here we are focusing the attention long time, without effort, with no motive, just want to see, that's it. As you are just watching the mind, what is popping up from the mind, you saw the thought, and then you are staying with that. So there is a program which is activated now to analyze it. So now you are looking at the program, not at the thought. What the program is doing. When you are looking at the program, you see the mind is trying to pick up other memories in the form of thought to analyze the present thought. This is what you are seeing there. As you are looking at it, and as you are not attached, what happens? The program slows down. It doesn't get any impetus to grow further. Usually, if you are not looking, it will grow and create a world. Here, as you become the observer, as you are detached, you are practicing renunciation there, or not getting attached with that. Thereby, it slowly slows to drop down. And the analytical process is there, but it is not operating. And then you integrate with the process to understand it. Not by analysis and nor by synthesis, but by watching it. As you are staying and seeing the analytical program which is there, the mind becomes quiet. The doer mind, the one who is doing the analytical program, quietens by itself. And you get integrated with the analytical program, means it's not doing, it's there, and you are the program now. In that level, as you are watching the program, you become the program. You are the program. Nothing else is active in the mind. That's the reason why we say we are the program at the time. When you are the program, you understand what he is doing because it is you now. This is called Vitarkam. The analytical program, you are understanding how it is working. This condition is called Samprajnata Samadhi. And you can remain in that state long time. There are subtle programs going on, but the peripheral side is stopped, allowing you to go deeper. When you are practicing this for a long period of time, it becomes so easy for you to just get there and remain in the silence with the program. So the program is there, but it is not going to do anything. So silence comes, integration comes there. So you understand what your mind in the analytical program is doing. You get the mastery over it. This is what my mind is doing. It is not what I am doing, it is what my mind is doing. Integration takes place, but you know that it is not you. And then when you stay there, it deepens. And then your question deepens to understand, is there something more that is taking place there? So you are sharpening your focus. This program is shut down. So is there some other program which is going on inside you? When you are deepening your meditation to see whether there is some subtle program which is going on, you will understand there is an urge. In that urge, it is looking to find, is it good? Is it right? What I am doing is right. Is it useful? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it right? Is it wrong? These questions are there, and you are seeing this subtle movement of the mind that is triggering this program, the program of judging. When you are looking there, you see what the intellect is doing. It is picking and choosing the information and put the idea of discrimination into it, and it tries to discriminate to understand whether it is good or bad, right or wrong. Now you are looking, you are deepening your focus to that deeper program, which is the judgment-making program, synthesis. And when you are keeping this program as the object of your meditation, you integrate with that, thereby you understand this is what the inner mind is doing constantly. As you are observing this, it cannot function because there is no input you are putting for this program to go on working. Instead, you remain as the observer. As you are not feeding anything for this program to work on, or the judgment-making program to work on it, it cannot work. So you see the program as it is. It's not doing anything as you are not giving anything for it to operate. You have to present something before it so that it can operate. Now you are not presenting anything, instead you are observing. So thereby it cannot function. So you see the program clearly and you come closer and closer to the program and you understand the program. The program is not bad. It is a function. It's a very divine function. The nature has kept this divine function in you. And this silence, the silence that comes by integration there with this program of synthesis, you get into a deeper samadhi, and that samadhi is called vichara, vichara samapatti or vichara samadhi. It is deeper than the earlier one. So in the first, later you will study the different classification of samadhis. This is general classification. Vitarka. Vitarka samadhis are of two types. Savitarka and nirvitarka. So vichara samadhi is also two types. Savichara and nirvichara. And you cannot understand this in any other way. The only way to understand and get there is meditating upon it as we were doing now. Usually what happens, people read books and they presume that they are in samadhi. But a lot of functions are going on. They may not know anything what is going on inside, but they presume that they understood it. That's not the way of yoga. Yoga is coming directly to the object that you want to understand, or directly to a function that you wanted to understand. So by focusing, Patanjali clearly said there are two programs. One is dispassion, detachment, the other is practice. As he was saying these two things together, there is a connection between these two. These two things flashed in his mind when he was writing or talking about what are the tools that we could work. One is detachment, the other is practice. It indicates a third dimension of practice, detached practice. You practice and keep the detachment. And that shows, that lead you to another deeper point, that you practice with detachment. Your practice is not for gaining anything. No motive at all. You are not practicing for becoming a yogi. You are not practicing for getting some siddhi, power, a greater life, or your future, in an affluent future, nothing. You are practicing for practicing. That's why in the practice, I always suggest just to watch, nothing else. Then you see what the mind is trying to push out. So you understand the function of the mind. If you are going with the mind, you will not understand anything. So always keep yourself as the observer of the mind. That will inevitably keep you in a state of detachment. So you are practicing detachment at the same time. So all the practices which we have seen, which is described in the second chapter of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, needs to be practiced with detachment. And the simple way to practice with detachment is keep on observing what the practice you are doing at the same time when you practice. And then you are a detached practitioner. You have no intention at all. You're just seeing what is shown, you will see. We are trying to master the function of our mind, which is the same function which is going on in the rest of the people. When you get into the vitarka state, which is you are mastering the function of intellectual operation that is happening in every moment in our mind. As you become the observer of that, this program cannot take you along with that. Instead, you will always remain as the observer. Thereby, you come closer and closer to it, because observation opens up yourself to see what is going on in the observed. Here the observed is the intellect, which is doing the discriminative program. As you come closer and closer to it, you understand the function fully by integrating with that. Integrating means that will be the only thing in your mind at the time. You become the program of synthesis. So you become very clear, oh, this is how it is working. Then I ask you to just look whether there is any feeling of joy or anything which is happening at the time. In that case, who is feeling the joy? When you are looking deeply, you will see that as there is silence, as the program is going down, and it comes to a null point where there is no activity going on, but the program is under surveillance, thereby you start to feel joy from your inside. And then you are looking who is becoming joyful. And then you understand that it is a core region inside ourselves is looking for joy. That's why he was doing the program. Even meditation is for that. The mind is creating thoughts to not to become a sufferer. It is creating a thought to burst into action, to fulfill something, to get into joy. That's the intention. And finally, it becomes a habit and that continues. Now, as we are watching it, intensely watching, we will see the program and we have mastered it because we know what it is doing. Thereby, you get little more deeper to that and you understand that there is an core of you is enjoying these things. And who is this core? You're looking. This is called your ego. When you get into elation, joy, by understanding this, what happens to you is, as I said, you become little joyful. And as you focus the joy, you become closer and closer to the joy, that the joy becomes a bigger joy because you only see the joy and nothing else. So your mind will be fully occupied with the joy. There is nothing other than joy is there. So it is not a small joy, it's a big joy now. And this joy is called the bliss experience. This is a deeper samadhi. What you are doing to get into this joy is nothing, you're just simply looking. It's not a difficult task at all. You're not letting yourself go with the thought, that's all what you're doing, but you're looking, continuously looking with relaxation. And your mind may not allow you to look. As we have set certain patterns of behavior, habit patterns and samskars. As we have created the samskar, we cannot look like this. Our samskar is to go with the thought. That's our habit. That's our pattern. And so we cannot normally remain as the observer. Patanjali clearly pinpoint that detachment leads you to realization. Detachment could be affected by your observation, relaxed observation. So as you are looking at the joy that is coming there, the joy becomes bigger in you, and then that's the experience. That's the third type of samadhi, which is called the bliss experience. You get into vitarka, vichara, ananda. Ananda. Ananda means bliss. Experience of bliss come to you. At that time, there is nothing other than the experience of bliss is there. So you become the bliss. There is no other movement. Only the bliss vibration. So you get into the experience of bliss, which is a deeper samadhi. And then you are looking. You have understood who is getting elated. That is what I asked you. Look who is enjoying. And your focus is now deeper. You are deepening your focus to what is happening behind the bliss. And who is experiencing the bliss. Then you understand there is an identified self which is experiencing all these things. And then once you get there, you have almost gone very deep into yourself. And that will be followed by a deeper integration. Integration with not the identified self, but the pure self. Not the person as you think you are, but the person as you are. That's the difference. The person as you think you are is not the person as you are. You are the silence beyond. You get into the experience of silence and you integrate that. And these are the 4 types of samadhi in a general way. But details will come in the following sutras. And you rest there. And these are the 4 different types of samadhi. Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda, Asmita, Rupa, Anugamad, Samprajnata. It's called Samprajnata Samadhi. Practice and detachment develop 4 types of samadhi, which is self-analysis, synthesis, bliss, and the experience of pure being. Not the person as you think you are. Experience, that is you are, that's what you are experiencing always. The pure being who is the witness beyond. You get into that witness and you experience that. And you understand the deeper silence which is within, beyond even elation, experience of elation. And that deeper silence which is within is everywhere. It's not confined in you alone. That silence is ever permeating, all permeating. It is there everywhere. It never comes, never goes, always there. Everything comes out of that, exists on that, withdrawn into that, which is here and which you cannot see also. And you get into oneness with that. And then Virama Pratyaya Abhyasa Purva Samskara Shesha Anya. So what happens at that time? When you are establishing with the pure self, there comes the absolute silence, as you are the silence at that time. You understand you are the silence and you remain there. The experience of void comes to you. A gap comes to you. And when you get into that experience of void, you are getting into a deeper samadhi. And this is an interim phase between Samprajnata Samadhi and the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And that's a gap. You experience a kind of gap, a void. There is nothing. The pure being is the witness where there is nothing. You enter into emptiness and you remain in the emptiness. The void arising in these experiences is another samadhi. In that samadhi, there is something is going on. You are integrated, but there is something is going on, which is not explicit at the time. When you are in samadhi, nothing is shown, but there are certain things which is hidden. What are those small things? Which can create a bigger world later. When you are in that samadhi, nothing will be shown. Everything seems so settled. But at times, it will pop up and it will create a world of its own. The void arising in these experiences is another samadhi. Hidden impressions lie dormant, but spring up during moments of awareness, creating fluctuations and disturbing the purity of consciousness. So there are things, because we are not ultimately finishing everything. Everything is there. As you are keeping vigilance of observation and practice and detachment, constant practice and detachment all those hidden impressions which were there in the memories cannot pop up. It doesn't mean that it is completely become extinct. It is there. That at intervals it pops up, it come up, and then it disturbs, and it creates fluctuations or activities. What are the activities? You have studied activities as pramanam, vipariyam, vikalpam, nidra, smriti. So all these activities are coming from the impressions which are hidden in your mind, which is not showing when you are in a samadhi, in the samadhi state. It doesn't mean that it is gone. It is there. It pops up and it creates activities. When the activities are on, what happens? You lose the equilibrium. You lose the balance. You lose the experience of calmness. And when you are disturbed, you cannot experience your pure being, which is love itself. And you miss the whole thing. So what is creating the problem is the hidden impressions which are there inside. This is the cause of all the karmas of a person. We have set up certain patterns of behavior, and that hidden patterns are continue to be existing in your consciousness, in your mind. The void arising in these experiences is another samadhi. Hidden impressions lie dormant, but spring up during moments of awareness, creating activities, fluctuations, and disturbing the purity of your consciousness. When the consciousness is always pure, but the mind masks the purity. The consciousness is like the sky. It's not contaminated by the clouds. It is always free. It is there as the background. But the clouds come up and it masks the sky. It is the same way. The hidden impressions come up at lucid intervals, and then it creates a world of its own by creating your thoughts. And the thought triggers the process of analysis again. And then it gets into a further program of synthesis. As you are not observing and understanding, you never get into samadhi. Instead, you get into a peripheral way of understanding the world. And it triggers joy in you. And it also triggers suffering in you. And it creates duality and aggression in human mind. And it is coming from your individual idea that you are a separate being. The pure being is the silence, unaffected silence. And that silence which is in me is the same silence in you. It is the same silence in every atom of existence and every being. It is the same. When you get into that awareness, you understand that consciousness is always pure. But your awareness gets contaminated. So, in this program, as we have seen, go on watching deeply, keeping your mind as the object of observation. Thereby, you can see all the activities of the mind, from grosser to the subtle levels. And finally, you understand who is the experience, so-called experiencer of all these things. Then you understand the identified self is the experiencer of all these things. And deeper than that is the pure self, which is the witness. And when you get into the witness, you remain absolutely calm, feeling oneness with the rest of existence, and your heaviness is gone, heaviness of keeping your little one, who is pretending always as the big one. And the load of that big pretender is to be carried by a person. And that's the suffering, which is called the human suffering. We are always suffering this. When you feel you are big, certainly somebody will come and say that you are not big. So you have to fight to establish that you are bigger than the other one. There will be wars, all kinds of restlessness, troubles. This is how we make the world a place of misery. Whereas the other possibility is always open. You're always free. But one has to know about it. For that, we are sharpening our observation to the very core to find who am I. We will reach that. And if hidden impressions are there, that is definitely there, that will pop up at moments of at moments between two gaps of silence. And when it pops up, you'll be taken by that. As you are a practitioner, you are still continue to be observing so that the thought which is coming from the memories as a fluctuation cannot take over you. So you become the master of the activities of the mind. Otherwise, the activities will take you away from you. And your mind will be always in a state of turbulence, fluctuation, activities, modifications. Thereby, you miss the possibility of becoming one with your pure source. This is Sutra number 18. Virama pratyaya abhyasa purva samskara shesha anya. The void arising in these experiences is another samadhi. Hidden impressions lie dormant, but spring up during moments of awareness, creating fluctuations and disturbing the purity of your consciousness. Sutra number 19. Bhava pratyaha videha prakritilayana. In this state, one may experience bodilessness. When you are getting into the deeper samadhi, crossing the analytical mind, crossing the intellectual mind and its programs, going into the sense that you are somebody, I sense, or the person, the self, imposed self. Are you crossing that? And you get into the pure self, which is the witness, which is the deeper silence which is within, which is always there. When you are there, what happens? You are losing the awareness of your body. Now, we are not caring about the body. Our focus is very, very deep inside. And our focus is with the witness, with the silence. When your mind becomes so silent, you don't have a body. Because your attention is with the deeper core which is within you. Even in sleep, you don't have a body. So it is not something very special or anything. It is every day happening that when you are sleeping, you don't have the awareness of body. You don't even know whether you have a mind. Everything is shut down. But you get into a state of deeper ignorance that you don't understand anything. But whereas in this state, your awareness is absolutely on, that when you get into the void, you will realize the silence in the void, or silence or void or whatever, and thereby you remain one with that. Consequently, you will not feel you have a body. That means what happens at that time? When you don't have a body, you're not separate. You are one with the rest of existence. Your body makes you separate. Your belief that you are separate comes from your physical existence, which is created by your mind. But whereas when you are in sleep, this is gone, the mind is not operating, thereby you are not separate from the nature. In slumber, not in dreamful state of sleep. So you will experience a kind of deep state whereby you are not aware of the body at all. The first question in Jnana Yoga is, are you the body? In this state, you are clearly understanding that you are not the body. You are still alive. You are not dead. You are existing, but you don't have a body. Videha prakritilayana. You don't have a body at all. You are merging in the nature. And you are not distinct from the nature. Prakritilayana. It's considered as a great state in yoga. And you get into a special sense that you are not the body. You don't have a body. And you are not separate from the resistance. The other side of it is you are the universe. When you are not separate, who are you? You are the universe. You are always the universe. You are not an Indian. You are not a Hindu. You are not a Christian. You have no religion. You don't even have a body. You are not an Indian. Your national feelings are gone. You belong, are you simply belonging to the world? Or are you belonging to the universe? You are not limited to this world. You are the universe. You become one with the universe. That's the feeling. And that's why all kinds of pettiness, silliness, all kinds of inhibitions and limitations that we were holding will not work in that consciousness. You're not a limited being at all. You have no confinements. You're not American. You're not Indian. But when you cross the border, they remind you, you are an Indian. They keep you there. They don't let you go in. They check you thoroughly. Whether you are coming there to beg or you have money. In practical terms, all these things are there. But for you, you're not bothered about it. You're not affected by that. They remind you, the world reminds you, but you're not affected by the reminders that the world is constantly imposing on you. You're free. In this state, one may experience bodilessness. Bhava pratyaha videha prakritilayana. In this state, one may experience bodilessness or become merged in nature. This may lead to isolation or to a state of loneliness. You're not ending your program. And you have understood all these things. You are the universe. When you try to communicate this to somebody, your close people, they may not understand what you are trying to say. You will be totally misunderstood. Doesn't matter. That misunderstanding is not going to take away your experiences. Your children may not understand. Your wife may not understand. Your husband may not understand. The whole society won't understand. They will call you a mad guy. But you are on point that you are experiencing your pure being. It's very difficult for somebody else to understand what you are talking about. That's the reason why Jesus, when he was talking always, he was saying, truly, truly unto thee, verily, verily unto thee. I speak to you, truly, truly I say to you. Nobody understands, so he has to affirm that what I'm saying is the ultimate truth. But it's very difficult to understand. Until a person gets there. So it is not something that you can communicate to people verbally. And this is something that you communicate to the world in silence. This is the silent smile of Buddha. It's completely different. Very difficult to communicate things verbally. All these subtleties are very difficult to communicate in words. But Patanjali, with his tremendous skill on language, he tried to put it out like a gift. That is one of the greatest contributions to humanity, to go ahead with the purpose of incarnation, if at all there is a purpose. We are all here born with freedom, but we lost our freedom on the way. And then we realizes all our handicaps and difficulties and our sidetrackings and our problems. Thereby, we started to explore ourselves very deeply. Thereby, we get into the experience of oneness with the rest of existence by even relinquishing temporarily your body to get into the unification with the rest of existence, Prakriti Layana. And when you talk about this, very difficult to understand. But that possibility is there for everybody. This is Sutra number 19. Bhava Pratyaya Videha Prakriti Layana. One may experience bodilessness or become merged in nature. This may lead to isolation. When you try to communicate, nobody understands. That's why I explained this part. Nobody understands. So you feel you are isolated. You are alone. Actually, you are alone. When you ask yourself, have you understood somebody in this life fully? Your wife, your husband, your children, or your master? Has anybody understood you fully? They understand a little part of you. So we live here getting misunderstood between each other. That's very normal. So when a person is exploring this, he will understand, he gets into a silence that leads him to a state of loneliness, realizing the actual position of a being. I am alone. I am alone. I'm not sad about my aloneness, because it's the very nature of every being. You are alone. I am alone. Both are sitting in the same boat. Before the boat sinks, you have to ambush the other one and then escape. This is the human story. At least at certain points it happens. When you are at the risk of survival, very few people think about the one who is nearby. Mostly we forget and we try to escape. Save ourselves. Save your soul. And this is how human mind is working. Nobody understands anybody. And you realize that this is the nature of existence here. You will not be sad any further in this realization. This is our complaint. I am alone. Nobody understands me. And if you ask the same question, have you ever understood somebody fully? No. Then why are you complaining this? When you have not understood anybody, nobody could also understand you. There is a reason for this. Whatever I say, you don't understand. Whatever you say, I don't understand exactly the way I say or you say. We understand a part of it. It is because we have always sitting in different positions, and based upon our placement, we gather information, and with that we set up our mind and our understanding, and we identify with that understanding. Thereby, I am different from you, and you are different from me. But my core and your core are the same. Until we cross these peripheral, what you call envelopes, cages, we will continue to feel misunderstood. That's the problem. And that's our biggest sorrow, fight, troubles, aggression. And the solution is crossing all these peripheral sites to the deepest possible area, thereby where you realize that you are the same as the one who is criticizing you. We are not different. In the core, we are one and the same. There is no duality. But on the peripheral side, we are many. If we live the peripheral life, certainly there is no end to our suffering. If you are crossing the peripheral side, going deep into it, we identify with everything, everybody. I am you, you are me. And that's the big work a person has to do to really master himself. And his life will be a free life. Society is not a problem for him. But that possibility is there. And there will come, the sutra says, sutra number 19 says, this may lead, the loneliness may lead a person to the experience of a kind of void. And he may feel to isolate himself. This may lead to isolation or to a state of loneliness. And what can we do at that time? Which is not a great state. You have understood everything. You have realized the deeper core which is within you. But you feel alone. And that may lead a person to a kind of depression, spiritual depression. When it happens, how to save that person? Patanjali was thinking about it. Shraddha virya smriti samadhi prajna purvaka itaresham. Practice must be pursued with trust, confidence, vigor, keen memory, and power of absorption, power of integration to break this spiritual complacency. And also you may feel at the time that you have understood something. This loneliness was not there before. But now you get into a mood of loneliness, and that needs to be understood. Why? I am getting into this mood of loneliness. You feel you understood. You are a little bit better than the others. And you also isolate yourself. Oh, I don't want to be with these people to talk nonsense. They only talk nonsense. I don't like to be in that surrounding. You isolate yourself because you are now special. You have reached a very deep state, but you are not free yet because you are sorrowful about your loneliness. And then you get somewhere very, very deep, somewhere you stuck there. at the time what to do, how to take out this loneliness. And there Patanjali says, practice must be pursued with trust. The practice that you have been doing that had led you to this great experience, and where else you can trust yourself? You can trust yourself to what had led you there, which is a high state, but there is some problem. And you should intensify your practice at the time. Practice must be pursued with trust, confidence. It is a shaky state, and you have to be confident with what you have been doing. And what has come out of your doings, what has come out of your practice, that needs to be focused. And you are confident that you came here, you have trust in what you have done, and you have the confidence to cross this. And then keen memory of the experiences that was offered to you by your own practice. You cannot trust anything else. All the way you have been going and finding your own mind and its operations, and you got into the experience of bliss, and you have seen the pure being that is within you, and all these things are there in the memory. Still memory is there. You can rely upon that memory and not memories that are offered by somebody. People are talking, people are writing books, but where can you rely upon? To what you can rely upon? To your experience, which is kept in the memory. Memory and power of absorption and the integration that you have crossed or you have come through. You got into the integration. You had the experience of integration, and rely upon that integration. Then continue your practice with that confidence. Thereby, you can get over this spiritual complacency. Then you have a way out. Practice in that crisis of feeling loneliness. You have to pursue your practice with trust, confidence, vigor, keen memory, and power of absorption, power of the experience of integration, and the power that you gain out of that. What is the power? The power is, you can shed off everything and you can enter into the silence. That confidence is your power. Power of absorption that can break the spiritual complacency. You can get that. This is what Patanjali was saying. Shratha Virya Smriti Samadhi Prajna Purvaka Itaresha. Then, when you pursue your practice with keen memory, trust, confidence, and the power of absorption, power of integration, you will certainly reach the goal. So naturally, there will be a question. How long will it take? People ask this question. How long, sir? You have been saying all these things. How long will it take? In this life? Or 10 more lives? Or millions of lives? How long? And this question might have come from his disciples. He understood, and he was saying immediately in the Sutra number 21, Tivra Samveganam Asanna. The goal is near for those who are supremely vigorous and intense in practice. The goal is near. It's not far off. It can be far off also for those who are not doing anything about it. Practice, according to Patanjali, is anything that you are doing to stop the activities of the mind intensely with devotion, one-pointedness, assiduously, with all your focus, is considered as practice. So your practice should be pursued to get out of the complacency, and now you have to intensify your practice. Tivra samveganam asanna. If you keep your practice intense, the intensity of your practice to a supreme level, the goal will be near you. If you are not intensely practicing, the goal is there, you will reach. So on the basis of the intensity of practice, the practices are classified as 3 types of practices. That is what he's going to say in the next sutra. Tivra samveganam asanna, in this sutra, the goal is near for those who are supremely vigorous and intense in practice. Let us see a little more. What is supremely vigorous? How can you be so vigorous in your practice? It indicates that you need to have the constant awareness. To keep up your observer, to get into the source. This is called mumukshutva, moksha icha, the desire to be free. When you have that desire to be free, certainly you will have the intensity and you will not deviate from that. When you have that intensity, always you are watching what's going on in your mind, and there is not even a moment that is skipped by you to observe what is going on inside. You are a vigorous practitioner. You don't need time. It is not 20 minutes of meditation in the morning. It's not half an hour of practice in the morning, asana practice. All the time you can be the observer. You are the observer. When you are having the awareness that you are the observer, all the time, continuously, a constant awareness of looking deep into yourself will lead you very fast to the goal. The goal is near for those who are supremely vigorous and intense in practice. This is intense practice. Continuously, you are aware. Whatever is happening in your mind, you understand immediately because you are aware. As you are working to stop the activities of the mind, where are you going to look? Are you going to look elsewhere to stop the activities of your mind? You can only look into your mind. That's why you need to have the alertness to actually observe yourself constantly. If there is a movement, you see that movement. And when you get into that kind of a mode, you are a vigorous practitioner. Then the goal is near to the one who is supremely vigorous in his practice. Then Patanjali says in Sutra number 22, Mridu Mathya Athimatratvat Tata Api Vishesha. Practices are of 3 types. Mridu means mild practitioner. Madhya, middle level of practitioner. Athimatratvat, intense practitioner. So practitioners can be of different types. Mild practitioners, middle level of practitioners, and intense practitioners. And depending upon the nature of their practice, the goal will be near or far off. Adhimatra, intense practitioner, constant practitioner. For him, this is the main point in his life. Nothing other than that is the main interest. So anything that happens in his mind, he takes as a chance to understand himself. Atimatra, intense. So practitioners are of different types. And you can locate yourself where you'll stay. Where you are staying. Mild, middle, or intense. Depending upon, you yourself will understand how long it will take for you to settle yourself. You don't have to go to an astrologer to find when will I be realizing. Just look into yourself and you will understand. It will take some more time. A mild practitioner can become a middle level of practitioner, and he can become an intense practitioner. Life is pushing everybody to get into the level of intensity of practice, into a deep level of practitioner. Because when you are looking for pleasure, that will be followed by some kind of pain. When pain comes, you get dejected and you want to get out of all the pain. So you will intensify your practice. Through life, you become a great practitioner after some time. Better be in this life, because we only know about one life, which is this life. In my opinion, we should not postpone it to the next life, as we don't know whether there is a next life or not. So we have a chance. Why to waste this chance, waiting for another life? We can intensify our practice. Nobody needs to know what you are doing. You are looking intensely into yourself. Because the human brain has this great potential which is not there in many other organisms. We can create all these things. We can also observe what we are doing. This is an immense potential human brain has. And that's why human beings are considered a superior being by the humans. We consider ourselves as superior. Many times we behave in nasty ways, nastier than the animals. Animals never do it. I should not use the word nastier than the animals. They just do something for their food and for their sex. But we are great planners. We go on planning things, programming things for our life, our children's life, their children, and a whole generation that is going to come after you. And this is the normal life plan. But a lot of troubles will come. When the troubles come, finally you will see them with long beard and mustache sitting somewhere in front of some temple, meditating, and do the same greed and same troubles there in the name of a sannyasi. Because we have fixed already there. Our samskaram became like that. Nothing has changed. The position has changed from one place to another. Ishvara pranidhanatva. Chitta may be restrained by profound meditation upon God and total surrender to Him. He is saying another possibility. You are practicing, you are doing all these kind of practices which is proposed by Patanjali in the morning. You are getting up, you are doing ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, parigraha, tapas, swadhyaya, ishvara pranidhana, everything you are doing. And then asana practices and meditation and pranayama and everything. That's the scheme proposed by him. He himself is proposing that you can surrender to God. That's an easy way. Some people do this intense practice and some people, they go on the devotional path. Patanjali is proposing that also. Ishvara pranidhanatva, or you surrender to God. God is the ultimate knowledge, the all-knowing consciousness, or you surrender to the ultimate consciousness. When you are totally surrendered, you have no self of your own. When you have no self, then what is there? You are having no individuated self as amassed by you or procured by you during the process of living. When you surrender that to the Lord, what is left over? The pure being is left over. And you can do the practice of surrender to the Lord. Your chitta may be restrained by profound meditation upon God and total surrender to Him. He is putting a tool for you, for everybody. Surrender to God. Then he is explaining who is God. Klesha karma vibhaka ashay aparamrishtaha purusha vishesha Ishvara. Who is Ishvara? God is the supreme being, totally free from conflicts, unaffected by actions, and untouched by cause and effect. This is God for Patanjali.